So, hello BookTube, I am back with this time a discussion of The Left Hand of Darkness by Ursula K Le Guin, which is of course a very well-known classic in the science fiction field. So for this discussion, as is often the case with my discussion reviews, potential spoilers ahead, so proceed at your own risk. Again, a buddy read, you may be seeing a theme here. If you have been following my latest videos, buddy read with Sophia, I really enjoyed that, sharing our thoughts for both of us first time reading it. So, where to start? So this was a very fancy edition with shiny footprints in the snow, and it says here with an introduction by David Mitchell, but not only by David Mitchell, it in fact also came with an introduction by China Mieville and an introduction by Ursula K Le Guin herself. And so, as is usually the prudent case of introductions, I only read them after finishing the book, and I can recommend that, although they don't spoil too much, and I think you can spoil the book in the sense that you can give away certain plot points, but the plot is not really the point of The Left Hand of Darkness. So, what is it about? Well, if you are into sci-fi, you've probably heard a little bit about The Left Hand of Darkness, and that it's about gender, and you may have heard, in fact, about the main point regarding gender, that there's a society where people don't have gender, or gender works differently. So that's how I came into it, and if you look at the blurb, we have a whole story at the back that actually doesn't mention gender. It talks about two strangers having to go on a dangerous journey across the ice. We have David Mitchell saying Ursula Le Guin is a chemist of the heart. We have The Guardian, which calls it a rich and complex story of friendship and love. And then Neil Gaiman, it's a giant thought experiment that's also a cracking good read about gender. So I think Neil Gaiman gets closest, at least in my view, about what the book's about. So it is definitely about friendship and love, although not necessarily romantic love, but platonic love, sure, I can see that. But yeah, it is a thought experiment, and it's a thought experiment about, amongst other things, gender, but certainly not only gender. But let's start with the gender. So the way it is about gender as a thought experiment is that on this world that it's set on, the world of Gethin or Winter, the people, they are human, but they are genetically somewhat different from humans we all know and love, in the sense that for most of the month they don't have any gender. They have retractable sex organs, or both sets. It's a bit unclear in my memory, at least. I think the book does explain it. But then a certain number of days of the month they basically go into heat, and then depending on who they accompany with, they can develop into a male or female form with the corresponding set of organs. But that's only for those couple of days, and the next month they could develop the other way. So for most of the month, or most of the time, the people don't have gender, and they can both father and so I'm trying not to unnecessarily gender my language as well, but so they can both sire, as the book says, children, or get pregnant and give birth, depending on, and they might have done both throughout their lives. And so then we see the society mainly through the point of view of this ambassador from other human societies throughout the galaxy, who's come to invite this world to join what's called the Ecumen. So this kind of alliance of human worlds. And this ambassador, Genii I, is, I think, from Earth, but definitely from a gendered society. And he is in fact quite sexist. And like The Dispossessed, which I already discussed earlier, one of the strengths of this novel is that although we've seen it from his point of view is never presented as being right. Yeah, so I think definitely from kind of an early 21st century point of view, for example, the judgment that I is sexist is quite easy to make, and quite clear evidence for that in the text. But the book isn't sexist, right? It's quite showing you, it's really invites you to think, and that's the great strength of Lieutenant Darkness, as of The Dispossessed. The book invites you to think and to read it critically, and not to just accept even what would kind of be the natural viewpoint of the text, let's say, as being correct. And so, although this was really groundbreaking when it came out in terms of imagining this genderless society, you can see some traces of it being of its time, and it's also touched on in the introductions, and apparently Le Guin herself has kind of commented on that it doesn't really go into homosexual relationships, although the people on the planet don't have gender, and they don't have gendered pronouns. I, for example, insists on using the male pronouns, and the book throughout uses male pronouns, even when I is not the person narrating, which from a more modern point of view you say, well, maybe use they. But even so, even though some of the viewpoints are slightly dated, also psychology is distinctly Freudian in a way that I think has been is kind of obsolete now. But even so, there's still enough here to really make you think and question, and to make the book still very much worthwhile reading. So as I said, it's not just about gender, although it does go into that, and especially, it's interesting whenever I find something feminine about a person he meets, it's always a negative quality. The things like that you start to realize because the book is forcing you to think about gender. And also there's like a Romeo and Juliet analog set in their culture, so the world building is magnificent. Right, the culture really makes sense. We get all these little folk tales and taboos and customs that make sense for the way these people have grown up and the environment these people come from. And so it really explores, what if gender worked differently? Or if there was no gender, what would society look like? So that's really interesting, but it does more than that. So it's not just about gender. It is also about nationhood and states. So on this world there's a kind of feudal state or pre-nation state. The ideas of nation states are really still developing. And there's this counterpart, which is this kind of quasi-totalitarian, communistic but not really communist state, which invites you to think about these kind of forms of political organization and how they are not natural, but how they are created by humans. And it's about communication and miscommunication between people of different cultures with different kind of frames of reference and assumptions about what the other means and what is and isn't acceptable to say or to ask or to do. In a sneaky-ish way, it's also about race, although the book doesn't make it explicit, but I think all the characters, or nearly all the characters in here, are people of color. And of course, if you're traveling on the ice, the question is whether whiteness there is an intentional race metaphor as well. But there's a scene where they're traveling through a blizzard and everything's white, and in this completely white world they're unable to advance or accomplish anything. They have to wait until the world is no longer just white, but there are also shades of grey and blue and black, so that they can advance again, which you probably wasn't intended as such, but you can of course read as a metaphor about diversity and about racism. But yeah, like the Dispossessed before, I really enjoyed this book, and I really liked that it kind of invites, or even to a certain extent forces you to read it critically and to think about what you're reading. It was also interesting to read it having read The Dispossessed, which of course came out I think 4 or 5 years after Left Hand of Darkness. But you can kind of see the political ideas that are worked out in the society in The Dispossessed also coming through in The Left Hand of Darkness. Right? The basis on which people form communities, what do people have to offer each other, what does it mean to be human together, how do you find a connection, and the importance of kind of shared struggle as a bonding experience, and that is what connects people, and that all you have to offer really as one human to another is your willingness to kind of endure together, to struggle together, which becomes quite important in The Dispossessed, but you really see the kind of foundations of that in The Left Hand of Darkness as well, even though it's not the point of the book. So that was also kind of an interesting parallel to see. So it was a bit rambly, but I hope I made my thoughts clear. I hope you enjoyed listening to them, and if you have any thoughts of your own, please do leave them down below, and see you all again next time. Bye bye.